And let's begin with some news out of the Supreme Court today. A busy day for the High Court. It was announced that part of President Trump's proposed travel ban will in fact go into effect, and that the court will hear the administration's appeal this coming October. So let's talk a little bit about this. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid joins us now from Washington with more on this. So Paula, we have those countries up there on the map that were a part of this travel ban, and we know that part of it will go into effect and part of it will not. What do we know? Which part is going to actually be able to go into effect right now?
Well, Rick, now if you're trying to come to the United States from one of the 6 countries covered by the travel ban, you will not be able to come here unless you can prove some sort of concrete relationship to the United States. Now, the justices laid out what they believe that could look like. For example, if you have been admitted to a university here in the United States, if you've received an offer of employment, or if you have a family relationship here, if you can prove with documents and other evidence that you have that relationship, you may be let in, but everyone else for the next 90 days, they will be blocked.
Let's talk about the politics of this, because every lower court that has heard this case so far has rejected it. But here comes the Supreme Court, and it really wasn't even close. This was a 7-2 decision, is that right? And exactly what does this mean for the Trump administration?
Well, it's an unsigned decision, so we don't know exactly the breakdown. And there were 2 decisions here. And this, you're right, this was an enormous victory for the president. At every turn, the courts have essentially blocked this policy. But here, the Supreme Court has given them him as much as they possibly can. They have agreed to hear the case in October, and until the case goes before the justices, they will allow him to implement this policy. This is more than he's gotten from any other judge or justice who's heard this case. And the icing on the cake would, of course, be if after they hear arguments in the fall that they find this policy constitutional. But for today, this is a huge victory for the president. The Supreme Court has given him almost everything he's asked for.
Is there any scenario, Paula, where this case will not make it to the High Court in the fall? I mean, the case asked for a 90-day sort of pause to review policies. It seems like there'll be more than 90 days between now and when the High Court might actually take it up.
That's right. That's a great point. Yes, it is possible that this may not actually make it before the justices. In the opinion, the justices point out that this policy was, as you noted, it was only supposed to be temporary, about 90 days, and give the administration time to sort of review how they vet people coming from these 6 countries where the governments are not always reliable enough to provide accurate information about the people coming here. But as I've been in the courtroom, the judges have even asked, hey, how's it going with that vetting procedure? Have you made any changes? And the Justice Department always says, no, we haven't had a chance. We've been spending all our time in court litigating. So here, in their opinion, the justices are sort of nudging the administration to sort of work on those vetting procedures. They say, look, we'll let you put this policy in place to free up some resources, work on resolving some of these vetting issues, so maybe in the fall we won't even have to consider this temporary policy. Perhaps you will be where you always wanted to be, which is with more permanent vetting procedures in place for these 6 specific countries.
We just put up a portion of a letter released by the White House showing how pleased the president is with the Supreme Court's decision today. We also heard from the court that they're going to hear a case in the next term that has to do with same-sex marriage. And then once again, this is the letter released by the White House saying that the president's happy with the travel ban decision. What about this same-sex marriage case that the court has agreed to hear next term? What do we know about that?
Well, you're absolutely right. The president is very excited that they're hearing this case, and he issued a statement. We were expecting a tweet, but we got that statement. But he's also likely, and many conservatives are probably very happy about this same-sex marriage case as well. Because here, we know several years ago, the court declared that same-sex marriage is marriage. But following that decision, there were cases that start to be filed in the court, kind of trying to push in to figure out what exactly the parameters were on that decision. Were there certain protections for people who object to that on religious grounds? And this case has to do with a couple in Colorado, a same-sex couple who wanted a wedding cake made, and a baker rejected that request based on religious grounds. So that's going to go before the court, and the justices there, they will consider whether or not, the extent to which this baker is allowed to decline services to someone based on religious beliefs, and the extent to which that same-sex couple has the right to be treated equally under the law. It's a really interesting case. I think it'll be one of the big ones next year. But it also, Rick, that really signals that the conservative justices on this court, there's a renewed energy to take up a case like that, because that really has been a priority for a lot of conservatives across the country following that landmark same-sex marriage decision.
Paula, one more question. I know that there was a lot of speculation that we might hear about a possible retirement on the court today, that one of the justices may say that he was getting set to retire. That did not happen, right?
No, the rumors continue to swirl, but so far we've gotten no retirement announcement. Of course, most of the rumors surrounded Justice Kennedy, and while any justice, if they pass away or resign, that's an enormous political event. But if Justice Kennedy was to retire, that really got people talking, because he is, of course, the swing vote on the court. And if he was to step down, that would give President Trump the opportunity to push the court in a conservative direction for decades to come. But so far, no announcement. No announcement has been made. It's not required that he make it on the last day of the term. He's a justice. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants.
Talking about firing up conservatives, Kennedy retirement would certainly do that and give President Trump a chance to really solidify the conservative majority on this court. Paula Reid, who is the CBS News justice correspondent, joining us from Washington. Good to talk to you, Paula. Thank you so much.